Hey everyone, Jeff from Jeff and Paper Gary here, bringing you yet another non-airplane related video. So bear with me a moment if you're here looking for airplane stuff. We're going to get back to that soon. But I'm in the middle of installing a mini split system in my garage and wanted to capture a few things while it's fresh in my mind. As many of us are building airplanes in our garages, we're entering the summer months and looking for some break to the heat and the humidity so that we can continue working. I live in Oklahoma. It gets dreadfully hot throughout the summer months here and makes working in the garage sometimes not just uncomfortable but impossible. I started this project back in September, and I know there were some 95, 98 degree days that were just awful. So with that, I got this mini split system here from GWIN or GWIN. They're like a partner or sister company of Mr. Cool. So if you've done any research on mini split systems, you'll almost certainly see Mr. Cool. And you know, there are some people out there that hate on them. There's some people that love them. I don't know. Make your own judgment call on that one. But after doing some research and getting a couple of local quotes for a mini split system, I settled on a 36,000 BTU unit from GWIN. And the reason I went with the GWIN unit over the Mr. Cool was the recommendation from their sales or support team that said, if you can pull a vacuum on a system, this is the better option to go to, right? It uses R32 refrigerant, which they say is more stable and better than the systems that come with the pre-charged lines that all just connect and go. So my dad is not only a union electrician, but has years and years of experience working in the appliance repair industry, where he's very familiar with refrigeration systems and air conditioning systems and has all the tools and can help me pull a vacuum and get this thing set up. So that's the option that I chose. I got it at a really great price, and just for some comparison before you guys go out shopping, or maybe if you already have, I had a couple local places come and give me a quote for the entire system installed, and that ranged between $7,000 and $10,000. I bought this 36,000 BTU system for right around $3,000, I think. So I got in there before the price hike took place and got a really great deal on it. So when we get into the installation, there's a few things I want to talk about. I'm a pretty handy DIY guy. I have done a lot of kitchen remodeling, bathroom remodeling, home repairs, plumbing, electrical, HVAC. I'll be honest, is usually one of those things I tend to avoid and stay away from. But most everything else I've done, and I would probably rate this on a scale of 1 to 5 on difficulty, probably 3. While it's a DIY kit or a DIY project, it's really not that easy, especially when you get into trying to figure out how to run your electrical lines and some of the things that you have to go through. So we'll talk about that in detail here in a little bit on some of the steps, but I want to go capture a few things. First of all, if you think that you're going to install this thing by yourself, probably should think again. Even getting this mounted to the wall with your lines through the wall, and the outside of my house is brick, so I had to go get a hammer drill and core a big hole through there, and then have my dad align the pipes and the drains and all the things to go out there. That was a bit of a challenge with 2 people. I certainly wouldn't want to try to do that by myself. Now, this thing mounts to the wall initially with a metal bracket that has a little bubble level on there. And it's really helpful, and it's a nice bracket, and then the unit kind of hangs on a bracket and then locks down into place. My recommendation, and if you read the fine print in the instructions, which are not all that awesome, but they're okay, is understand where your drain is going to go out of this thing, and then when you mount that bracket, maybe mount it just a hair sloping down the side to kind of help that water drain out there. You certainly don't want it tilted any way in the opposite direction, I guess, because you'll get water that condenses, that pools up in your drain tube, and then it'll get all moldy and nasty, and that'll be bad. So if you're not straight on level, might make you go just a little bit past level, hanging on the low side for the drain. Other than that, the inside install of this is pretty straightforward and pretty easy. Read the manual. There are some clearance things, because I think there's some ventilation on the top here, so you have to be so many inches down from the top. And then you can see I'm dangerously close to my electrical panel. And I was very careful when I cut the hole in my wall to stick my hand in and make sure that I was not going to hit any wiring or any of that nature. Now, when it comes to the electrical panel, I had to go add a double breaker here at 40 amps to hold the system. And I got very fortunate. As you can see, these wires hanging out here that are not punched down, they're appropriately sized gauge wire, and I didn't realize what they were for at first. And then I got up in the attic and I traced them down, and my house not only has gas for the appliances, but it also had a 220 electrical line for the stove, in case you want to put an electric stove in. So I went in the attic, I cut that and left enough wire coiled up in that area should myself or the next homeowner decide that they want to put that back. They can just put a junction box in there and splice into it. But then I rerouted that wire, repurposed it outside, that we'll show you in a minute, through a piece of conduit into the breakout box, or the disconnect box for the electrical. So I got kind of easy on it, because if you had to go up through here, I'll bring the camera a little closer. If you had to get up in here an electrical panel, right, to try to run another wire, you can see those are pretty full, and it's pretty challenging to get a fish tape or a rod up there and through the top cap of the wall and such. So it can be done, but you really got to have some electrical knowledge and experience to go do that. So with that, I'm going to take us outside, and we're going to look at the outside portions of this job. So here's the penetration point for the outside unit. I don't have this all done yet. We ran into some difficulties with this plumbing here, but this is the drain line that will get routed far away from my electrical box. And then outside of that is a 14-4 conductor wire, 14 gauge 4 conductor wire that goes up in my soffit that then goes down into the other unit. And those are the control wires that go from inside unit to outside unit. Now, where we stopped, the GWIN people sent me an installation kit for 15 feet because I planned to put the outside unit straight down from here. That didn't work out well because of the location of my electrical panel and the rest of these garbage cans and things I have out here, so I decided to move it down a little further. Now, that being the case, they sent me 1/4 inch copper line and 3/8 inch copper line without fittings on the end of them. And they send you these compression fittings that go on there. But the line coming out here is 5/8. And that cap, if you can see, I'll try to get closer here, the cap on that larger line has that little red indicator on the back there. And the minute I unscrewed that cap, I heard hissing. And I don't know if that was pre-charged and I was losing refrigerant, or if they had pulled a vacuum on there, and it was drawing in there. Either way, I shut that real quick. And then put in a call to tech support, because I'm not exactly sure how you're supposed to take off that plastic cap and connect there without losing whatever charge or vacuum is in there. So just a vacuum, and you take that off, no big deal. We can put the pump back on there and draw a vacuum again, and it'll be fine. But if it's refrigerant in there, I don't want to lose all that refrigerant because it's very expensive to go put that back in. So waiting on them to figure out how you're supposed to go and break that cap without losing the charge inside there. So more on that as we get some information from them. Now, over here, I'll try to... Okay, so over here is the outside unit. The power line that was up in my attic for the oven, and the 4-conductor 14-gauge wire for the control of the inside and the outside unit. Went up into the soffit and then came down into this 1-inch conduit that then went into the disconnect box. That went through the liquid-tight that was supplied and into the outside unit. Now the liquid-tight that they sent, the fitting on one end was too big for the hole that was pre-cut in this panel right here. So in this panel, there are 2 3/4 inch holes in there, and the end of the liquid-tight that they sent was like 1 1/4 or something like that. So I had to go to a friend, borrow a knockout set, and make that hole a little bit bigger so that I can get my liquid-tight in there. And then the wire that they have in there, I think it's 10-gauge wire, 10-gauge threaded wire. It's actually too big to fit under the screw terminals that they put in there. So I had to go, and luckily I had some on hand, some yellow ring terminals that I crimped on the end of each of those wires and then secured them down with a ring terminal. So just an FYI there, that the liquid-tight that they sent with this one for me, in this application, didn't work exactly as it was intended to. I had to knock out that hole to make it larger. I had to cut it down shorter, which was fine. And then I had to use the ring terminals on the wire because the wire gauge that they gave was too big to fit under the terminals of the box. So that's about where we are. Other than that, nothing too terribly complicated. The bracket that they send to mount this thing was just affixed to the brick with tap collins, And it seems to be really sturdy and holds really well. I put it up high enough that I could get under there with a weed whacker really easy. I didn't want to deal with putting a cement pad out here and then having to redo my flagstone and all that. So I just hung this thing straight on the wall. And then, you know, should it ever come out, I can pull all that stuff out, and I have just a few holes in the mortar that I have to go patch up and fix, and you know, it should disappear pretty easy. So that's where we are with the GWIN system. Really hoping that it works out very well and does a great job cooling. We just have to figure out from GWIN, like, how are we going to go attach these lines. Then we'll go put a vacuum on it, draw it down, and then open up the valves and let it do its thing. So hopefully, you know, by next week we have this thing up and running, and I can give a review on how well it is working, and it keeps me cool throughout the summer months. So that's all, folks. I did this because I didn't see a whole lot of reviews or installation videos online with this. I kind of wish I had filmed the whole installation process, which I didn't, but I did want to point out some of the obstacles and some of the gotchas that I found that I have to work through, so that maybe it helps somebody else. So thanks for tuning in. Give a like if you think so. And like I said, when I get some information back from the GWIN people, I'll post an update and let you know what I've learned. Thanks, everyone.